The Chargers bounced back in a big way against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football in Week 8. So let's break down what happened in that game, what the positive and negatives are, and let's give a quick mid-season review on some questions we need answered going into the back half of the season. Let's get into it. For at least 1 week, we can say it. Who got it better than us? I tell you, it was a good victory going into this matchup with the Vikings. I was a little concerned. The Vikings are a good team. They are a good team. And I will say I felt bad for Carson Wentz start this ball game. And Kevin O'Connell did him a real big-time disservice throwing him out there with that injury that we discovered now that it was pretty major that led to a season-ending surgery for him. So Kevin O'Connell, man, you got to do better. I'm going to be honest with you, man. You can't throw a quarterback out there when you have two able-bodies on the sidelines, to air quote protect them when you got Carson Wentz injured with a banged-up shoulder, and he definitely shouldn't have been playing. And I don't know who cleared him from a medical perspective, but real shady over there, man. I gotta say they got to do better in that space, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I think it was a bad look, but I shared my piece on Twitter. But again, I really think there was a bad look for forming that particular space and you doing that. But getting back to the Chargers themselves, man, they had a nice victory, a Harbaugh-esque victory in regards to what they did in Week 8 Thursday Night Football. Came to play, looked really good in them navy blue uniforms, and they play like it. They say, the old saying goes, you look good, you play good, right? And they pay good in certain spaces. So, hey, there it is. But, the Chargers had a pretty good, quote-unquote, victory against the Vikings. I guess a battered and bruised Vikings team. I got to give them credit for playing as hard as they did because they had a lot of issues. Christian Darrisaw went out in the game. A few other guys banged up in and out of the game, Hargrave and a bunch of others. So they didn't have a full complement of people, to say the least. But, of course, with a bang-up quarterback, can't do much with that either. But, the Chargers did what they needed to do, though, and this is what I always harped on with this team in the past, is the fact that you do not play down any competition. I understand that they have issues, so do we, from a player personnel perspective, but you did not and would not play down to them. You handled business. You took care of what you need to take care of, got out there with a victory, and you move on to the next game. You don't play around with your opponent, leave them in the game, kind of leave them hanging around, playing down the competition. You handle business and handle it in a big way. And the Chargers were out to prove that they were trying to bounce back from that Colts loss, and they did in a big way. I got to give Harbaugh a lot of credit for getting the team ready and getting motivated. Just getting embarrassed like that against the Colts. Although the scoreboard was closer than it didn't look, but it was pretty much an embarrassment in the first half, especially. So to bounce back in this big way on a short week, short memory, getting things done and dominating the Vikings was a very good look. It was a very good look. So let's get into our week in review. Let's talk about exactly what the game was and what it wasn't. Like I said, it was a 27-point victory, 37-10. So we'll get into the box score real quick. The Chargers led all the way through. I'm only giving up 10 points throughout the game. They scored touchdowns in the red zone this week. It was definitely a bright spot. Things that have been, questionable about this offense and how they executed in the red zone up to this point were, at least rectified for at least 1 week. I like that. Getting a touchdown right out of the gate, 2 more touchdowns before the end of the half. Was definitely a good showing and kind of winning the cruise control after that because the Vikings weren't doing much, but still scored every single quarter. Put up points in every single quarter, and that is a rarity for Chargers football here in the past several years. But again, handling the business, not taking your foot off the gas, doing exactly what you need to do, get out there with a victory and righting the ship. I think the biggest thing about this was righting the ship, getting course correcting, getting back on the right track and moving back up the ladder board and getting into that playoff push in the back end of the season. So very good showing for them. Again, 37-10, nice victory. Now get into the team stats. We won't, I guess belabor this too much, but, getting into the team stats itself, it was definitely interesting, a victory very, really lopsided, very one-sided from a space that the Chargers did much of all of the noteworthiness in this particular space. Dominated time of possession in 39 minutes to 20. Had one weird turnover, which was a tip pass, I believe, although Hurry did do a bad pick that Isaiah Rodgers that overturned. That kind of kept things in the Chargers' favor. But overall, they did pretty well with the turnovers. The one turnover they did have was a tip pick. So, I mean, again, can't really fault Herbert. It was an accurate pass. It just got tipped and intercepted. But outside of that, pretty clean game. Ran the ball well, 207 yards on the ground, very Harbaugh-esque. Passed the ball well is on top of that. 212 passing yards, really efficient on third down, 9 of 13. Didn't have to do any fourth downs. 29 first down to their 12. Good, great performance. 3 of 11 for them on third down, held them on fourth down as well. Only had 164 total yards of offense. That's definitely a recipe for victory. So I like that. So very good stats in that particular space. So I definitely like what they're doing there. So yeah, overall it was a pretty good game. Pretty good game from a team stat perspective. And get into the player stats real quick. Justin Herbert had a nice game. Like I said, outside of that one, pick, but he had 3 touchdowns, 227 yards passing, 18 to 25 throwing the ball, 96.3 QBR rating. So yeah, that was good. Kamani Vidal, another good game. I think he has out of 2 out of the 3 games he's played, 100 yards on the ground. So 23 carries for 117 to the touchdown. Justin Herbert had 62 yards scrambling, on 7 carries. Jared Patterson had 11 carries for 30 yards as well. So yeah, they definitely ran the ball well, 207 yards in total. So that's definitely a Harbaugh and Greg Roman style of play. So definitely got the things done in that space. And Ladd McConkey led the team with 88 yards on the receiving end on 6 catches with a touchdown. Ronnie Gaston's another breakout performance, 5 targets on 5 catches with 77 yards and 1 touchdown as well. Kenny Allen with 4 receptions with 44 yards on 5 targets. So yeah, pretty good game. Like I said, they were pretty much in cruise control after the first half because they were controlling things on both sides of the ball. So definitely like what they did in that space. But yeah, let's talk about the positives and what happened in this particular game. It was a lot of them. Honestly, I think it was a really get right game. I think this game was a really Harbaugh-esque game. I think they have a dominant run game and an opportunistic passing game. That is the Harbaugh philosophy. True and true. If nothing else can be said about Jim Harbaugh and his philosophy is his dominant run game and his opportunistic passing game. That is who he is. That is who Greg Roman is. That's how they build winners and build culture. That's exactly how they conduct themselves from a football perspective for offense. So yeah, they definitely did that. I felt like they play angry and physical, which is another Harbaugh trait. And I think that's on top of that, I think the players, fed off the losses that they had, especially against the Colts. And they just really angry and pissed off and were out there to make a statement. I think the Khalil Mack return on a more of a full-time basis this week was an added bonus to that on the defensive side of the ball. I think that helped the run defense as well as the pass rush. I think that I thought he was a little bit more banged up, a little more injured than he kind of led on and kind of played like in the week before that. So he looked much healthier in this particular game. So I expect more and more ramp up from him and more effectiveness on the defensive side of the ball from him going forward. So I did like that. Again, like I said, they play angry, play physical, fed off the losses. They believed in each other. They all banded together and said, we're tired of the downward slide and downward skid. So we're going to play angry. We want to try to go out here and make a statement. On Thursday night, we're at home, we're comfortable. Let's get things done. And then you can see how they play, like flying around to the ball, making plays, gang tackling. It was a lot of positives that come out of this game. A lot of good football played by them on both sides of the ball. Got to give them credit where credit's due. Very well coached and very well played game. And from an execution perspective, from coaching and players, I like exactly what they did in this game, and it was really good to watch. Really good to watch. And of course, the return to Joe Alt. I do believe that he's still a little bit banged up. That ankle is not healthy completely, but it's healthy enough for him to get out there and block. Only give up one pressure, in that space. Him and Greenyard went at it a lot in this game, and Greenyard got him one good time, but outside of that, Joe Alt kind of handled business. I've seen him block several people in with some particular plays, blocking really good in the run game. So yeah, as the game went on, he got comfortable with that ankle. I think he felt more and more like himself, and he definitely looked like the stalwart tackle that they drafted him to be in a top 5 pick. So yeah, like with Joel coming back and stabilizing their O-line a little bit. So definitely agree that he is definitely a stalwart and need him going forward to make any noise for sure. The pass rush, I think the pass rush was after it. Odafe Owe, Khalil Mack, Thule. Caldwell, Tart were all in the backfield on a regular basis. They sacked Carson Wentz quite a bit, 5 times in this game. So yeah, I think the pass rush was really active, getting after him. Again, on a bit of a banged up O line for the Vikings, but hey, you still got to get out the quarterback and get after him, in a large space on any given Sunday or any given Thursday, for that matter. So yes, I think the pass rush was really active, and I think it's been active since Adafe always been in the building. So I think that his addition is going to be big and pay dividends going down a stretch. That he's going to be a really, really valuable cog to this pass rush, and which much needed. His speed, his ferocity, his quickness, his ability to get after the quarterback with that speed and his size, much needed. And I will argue that at this particular point in time, if this track continues, I think he's a candidate to be re-signed and a high priority in the offseason. So we'll look off of that, but I definitely believe that he is an impactful player, and him, Khalil Mack, and Tuli in that combo, and kind of bringing up the young guys. Still mad about losing Caleb Murphy, but bringing up Cal Kennard in the rear as a young pup as well to kind of groom him to be the future, and he can kind of blend into what Adafe Owe may not be at this moment. I like the chances of this pass rush group being really good for the long term. So we'll see how things roll, man. But I definitely like how the pass rush flowed in this particular matchup. Getting to the negatives, won a lot. I wasn't arguing a whole lot about much of anything in regards to tackling, defense, run defense. They did a lot of good things in this particular matchup. And again, it's a week-to-week league. So for this game, I'm not going to browbeat them too much on what they did negatively. It wasn't a lot, but I will say the pass protection was a little bit leaky still. Outside of Joe Alt, pretty much being the stalwart guy that he is, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Mekhi Becton, when he did play for the few steps he did play, Foster Sorrell and Bobby Hart and all those guys, they still give up some pressures, man, and it still allowed for Herbert to, be uncomfortable in a sense. And I really believe that first pick that Isaiah Rodgers had that got turned over was the result of pressure. Pressure coming up in his face in the interior quickly and early allowed for him to have to get the ball off quick, and he into an untimely and uncharacteristic pick. And I said earlier in my video in last week that the pressure was really getting to him, and I think that was a byproduct of that. But thankfully, it wasn't overturned, and he didn't get cost of himself another interception. But I do think it's a byproduct of that. So the O line is still an issue. The pass protection from the interior, especially the edges, will hopefully get rectified. Hopefully, we get Trey Pipkins back sooner than later. But I think that outside of that, the interior pressure is still an issue. I mean, Tom Brady said it himself. He doesn't like pressure in his face. He can deal with pressure in the edge because he can step up, but the pressure from the interior is really, really problematic. So you have to rectify that, and by some means. And the question is, can you or will you be able to do that at this particular point in the ball game? But we'll see. We will see. But getting into the injury report real quick, let's talk about who got injured in this particular matchup. Derwin James went out early in the game with a low ankle sprain. He's day to day. I think Harbaugh said in a presser that he will be practicing this week. He hopes that he will be practicing this week. However, he still suffered a high ankle sprain. But so he will be out 2 to 4 weeks. So we will lose our best tackling outside corner, for at least a couple of weeks with a high ankle sprain for him. Didn't say he was a candidate for IR. So 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, 4 weeks is the high end. Then you probably don't want to put him on IR in that sense, because you can get him back in it within 2 weeks, hopefully. So hopefully he comes back, and hopefully whoever fills in for his particular spot, Cam Hart and others, can fill a void. But man, I think that people aren't really giving Tarheeb the flowers that he needs, his ability to play the edge, to tackle, to cover, just to be a big presence in the secondary that people don't want to throw at. So he will be missed in the next 2 to 4 weeks, but hopefully we can get it back sooner than later, and hopefully he comes back healthy and productive like he was before he got hurt. All right, so getting into our mid-season review. We're at week 9 now. We're at the halfway mark in the season. So we got some lingering questions we need to talk about real quick before we end this video. And let me know in the comments about how you guys feel about these particular questions, how you feel about them. Do you have any more questions that you want to get answered and things of that nature? Let me know, because I'm very curious about what you think the Chargers' main issues are that need to be addressed or can be addressed to help fix this team enough to make them a really, really deep AFC contending team, going into the latter half of the season. So, but for me, man, for starters, I got to start with Mekhi Becton's availability. And I don't want to get to the whole, browbeating or criticism of the fact that he fleeced the team in regards to them giving him that contract for that 2-year deal because he did have a good year with Philly last year. But I would argue that because they did a lot of run blocking, not a whole lot of pass protection last year. He kind of got away with the idea that he really isn't good at pass pro. That was a lingering issue for me when he was a tackle with the Jets. Even moving into guard with the Jets and now moving into guard with the Chargers and the Eagles, it wasn't that great. And I think that he got away with the idea that he was a really good run blocker. Is the reason why he, was highly touted as a free agent going into the 2025 offseason. But on top of that, just the skill set, is problematic. And his availability is an issue too. And I said this coming out of college on the Lockdown Diva Sports Network when I do my draft coverage. I said that him playing at 360 pounds is a problem. I said it. And I thought that he had got down to around about 330 when he was with the Eagles. I thought I read that. But, for everything I'm reading now today in 2025, he's still playing at 360. That's too much weight. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That's too much weight to be playing any offensive lineman position. I'm sorry. It is too much weight and it's going to cause a multitude of issues. And I say that to say that he is honestly and truly a byproduct of the weight he's carrying. He's carrying too much weight and it's resulting in him getting hurt quite often. And the fact that he's trying to move and torque and contort his body to a high level in the NFL, carrying that weight is an issue. And his availability has been a byproduct of it. His knees, his legs, his back, everything has been an issue. And it's all a byproduct of the weight he's carrying. And I don't understand why he doesn't realize that. I would think he needs to lose about 30 pounds. I think him playing around 330, around where Penei Sewell plays at, he can do that and he'd be very effective and it will cut down his availability issues and him not being on the field because of injury. Because he's gone out, I feel like he's gone out with a concussion or knee or shoulder or something of that nature in every game he's played. If he's played, he's come out with an injury. He's had to be subbed in for at certain spaces. Not maybe for long, but certain spaces he needed to blow because of injury. And that's an issue. That's an issue. So I think that Mekhi Becton needs to address his weight issues. I think he can't play at 360. At that height, that weight, it's too much torque on his body. And I really believe that he needs to drop some pounds in order to be effective O-lineman going forward. I think that if he continues this trajectory of him being injured, the Chargers may go in a different direction if I had to bet on it. Because you can't stay on the field, I'm paying you this money, then what are we doing here? What are we doing here? So I think that he really needs to consider a weight management program in the offseason to get his weight down, get about 30 pounds down, train down to about 330, and I think he'll be rocking and rolling. But he has to do something about it because I think him playing at 360 is too much. It really is too much. He has to do something about that. So that's my take on his issue and why he can't stay on the field. Secondly, I think Arade Gaskins and RJ Mickens are a revelation. I talked about them largely. I pounded the table a whole lot for these guys in the preseason, said that they were going to be great players, and they're panning out in a big way. Those takes age like fine wine, and they're definitely shining, and they're going to be stalwarts for this team going forward. There was definitely hot steals for late rounds. I mean, we're talking 5th and 6th round players that you picked up and was able to get them on the field in their rookie season and be productive. RJ's got, I want to say, at least 5 tackles per game in the 2 games he's played and started. Arande is second in tight ends in pass catching right now for rookies, and he didn't play the first 2 games. I mean, we're looking at a stalwart tight end and a stalwart safety to pair up with Elijah Molden and Derwin James going forward. I'm liking that tandem or that triplet, that triple threat of safeties that we're going to have. So I like that particular aspect of it. So that's looking good. Dafe Owe, I talked about him a little bit earlier in the pass rush department. Him boasting his pass rush room it can't be enough to be said about that. I love what he's doing. He's definitely showing us that skill set that he has, out of Baltimore. I'm just not sure why Baltimore couldn't make it work because he looks good in the first 3 games he's played with us. He's not only pressuring, he's sacking, but he's also pressuring the quarterback at a high rate. He's really getting to it, using that speed, getting around these tackles, and allowing the pass rush to get home quickly. What you need in this league because the ball comes out real quick in the NFL. So you got to be able to get out of the pass rush quicker. But that 4.3 speed, man, he's making it well worth the watch for sure. So I definitely hope that he can continue this trajectory in his upward climb. And maybe that wake up call to be traded was allowing him to get back motivated and want to play good because he's on the last year of his deal. But yeah, man, I like what he's doing, and I think that's going to hopefully continue. And the Chargers should look to re-sign him in the offseason if he does continue this production from a pass rush perspective. And lastly, the trade deadline. What's the most important position of need? If we had to pick one, what do you think the most particular important position of need to bolster this roster and get it right going into the back end of the season? Running back, I would say that's not on the high priority list, although, I mean, because Kamani Vidal is doing work. Jared Patterson feeling in well. Hassan Haskins should come back from injury. They did let Naheem Mimes go off the practice squad because they signed a safety in a D lineman, but for the practice squad, but he's gone. But ironically enough, Amari Hampton should come back at some point. I mean, he's still in a walking boot as of Thursday from Daniel Palmer's report. So he's not coming back right away, but I think he will come back to the back half of the season. So can we make it work with those three, with Haskins, Patterson, and Vidal until Omarion is ready? Can we make it work? It's possible. So I would argue that that's not the top priority. I think O-line is the absolute positive top priority in this conversation. I think it is. Now the question is, can you get anybody? Because again, when Mekhi Becton's injury, when I talked about it earlier at the top of this, is you could squeak a guard out of a trade. You could. A tackle is going to be difficult. Not many people is really in the market of selling their tackles unless it's older. They're talking about Jack Conklin could be a candidate to be traded from the Browns, maybe, but that's a stopgap. But yeah, you might be able to get a guard from a team that's pretty solid to kind of fill in for Mekhi Becton, I'm pretty sure that they want to stick with Zion Johnson and Bozeman if they're healthy. But filling in for Mekhi Becton on that right side, if he's going to be in and out of the lineup, it could be a get. I think we should look to that. The D line is hurt, banged up. Naquan, Deshaun, and Otito all hurt. Some are coming back, some aren't. I think Otito's done for the year. But that particular combo is dwindling down and he's getting thin. They did sign Kyle Pecco to the practice squad today, so I do believe that he's going to be brought up, in a reserve role. But trading for a D lineman, especially if it's a pretty decent one, that's a second priority for me. I would say O-line is one, D line is two. Linebacker could be a one because I would argue that Johnny Colson being out for the year and Denzel Perryman being injury prone, and Troy Dye coming off injury, that could be a candidate to pick up somebody that gets released and or traded for a very low in price tag. It could be a priority to pair with Deion Henley because we're going to need that depth and help with that run defense and pass coverage as well. So I would argue that that's a candidate that might be third. And with the injuries to cornerbacks, I think that cornerback will probably be I guess you can say fourth on my list. So I would say O-line, D-line, running back, linebacker, and corner would be my priority list in the trade. But it just depends on who's selling. If people are selling, at the deadline in the next week, because I believe the deadline is next Tuesday. If they're looking to sell any of those products and we can get it for a decent price, I would pull a trigger. But what my priorities are. I would go O-line, then D-line, then running back, then linebacker, then corner. But if any of those things can happen and add to this roster, I would do it to help piece this roster back together and get things rolling. So you can, lean towards contending and fighting for this divisional title in the back half of the season. So, like I said, let me know in the comments how you feel about this particular list and who you want to add to it, maybe delete. Let me know about any of these topics that I've covered in this particular one. Probably Thursday, Friday, we drop a preview for the Titans game. I do believe it's a trap game. Although the Titans are pretty bad and they can't seem to get things going on their side of the coin, but I do believe that you can't fall victim to them trying to improve. So you got to be able to come ready to play and play them like you played the Vikings. But we'll get into all that. I'll get into that about probably Thursday, Friday. Drop that for you so you can have a couple of days to chew on that before the game on Sunday. But as always, man, hit us up. Anywhere on a stratosphere of YouTube and social media for the Electric Shock Podcast. We're Electric Shock Pod on every platform, even Gmail. So hit us up, follow us on our Facebook channel, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Of course, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel so we can get the algorithm booming and moving in our direction that we're trying to get to this monetization level. But also, man, like I said, we're back with each and every day with videos, and man, we'll see how things flow for week 9. But hopefully, we get another victory and keep pushing and putting pressure on the AFC West. But in the meantime, between time, that's me. I'm Coach Defense. I'll be back Thursday with another video. But until then, you always got to remember to boat up.